Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Soul Booth, or welcome back if you've been here before. I am delighted to welcome my guest today, who is Tareq Hadhad, although that's not your real name, is it?
No, actually, it's not my real name. My real name was Tareq Hadhad, and it was all changed by mistake by the Canadian Embassy in Beirut when I went to do my first interview with them. So he heard from me in a way that I am Tareq Hadhad. And he changed my name, and also my family, when they went to the embassy to do the interview, they also changed their last name with me. So I was the guilty one. I changed everything for the whole family. But I think, I believe that there are really some things in life that they happen. They are not mistakes. They are just like, for purpose and for goals. And I think that was really one of these things. Because if we stayed Hudhud, being Hadhad gives us more unique perspective when we are here. And
You're the only Tareq Hadhad
yeah, exactly.
right?
I'm the only Tareq Hadhad on earth, but Tareq Hadhad is very popular name in the Middle East, so you will find thousands of people that they are Tareq Hadhad. So that is very powerful. I'm taking that in a positive way. You know my positive attitude towards everything.
I think so.
So yeah, that's just like part of it. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because now your Hadhad name is becoming very famous in Canada, and there's no going back.
Exactly. I think that it's not only in Canada. Actually, it's in the United States, across the world, as we were really mentioned in so many international media recently. We have been in the Guardian, BBC, CNN, all of every big media incursion you can ever think about. I'm really happy with the way that the media are really supporting, the story, and they are just walking with us through it. So we feel that we are really lucky. Yeah,
it's incredible. Okay, so we'll get to your fame, but let's start at the beginning. Can you tell me about your childhood in Syria?
Sure. Yeah. So I was born in 1992, and like any Syrian family, as I always mention, that the mothers, they usually they would be really happy when they have their children growing up to be even doctors or engineers. So 99% of them, they want them to be doctors, and 1% they want them to be engineers if they fail to become physicians. So really, yeah, my family was just like part of that typical thing that was going on in the Syrian society. And I felt that they were right. I mean, maybe it's a social thing. I mean, it's a social habit, but it's not wrong. When I was growing up and having that idea about medicine, and I really felt that it's really a noble thing to become physician, and it's really noble to become doctor. Relieving really the pains of the others is really such a humanitarian thing. And when I started some residency at the Syrian hospitals before I left in 2013, I really tried that feeling, and I really felt, what does it mean to save a life, because I was even like, my goal was to become a cardiosurgeon. I really believe that whoever saved the soul should be regarded as though as he saved the whole mankind. So yeah, actually everything I was doing then, it was just towards that goal. So yeah, that was just when I was born with a big family of, we are 7 siblings with my parents, and the social life in Syria before the war, you will really feel the importance of the family. The family is just the greatest unit in the community. So maybe there are like relationship with the friends, and the bigger circle, but everybody cares so much about the family. And
how many of you were living in the same house?
We were all in the same house, but in the building, my entire family were living all together, and that's really a very it's an old habit in Syria. They don't do it anymore. I mean, you don't find so much Syrian families they do it, but because my family, they are from these old Damascene families, so they kept that tradition to live all together, because they felt that it's really nice. It's really fascinating by the end of the week, to sit down all together celebrating, laughing and smiling, and maybe crying, or like hearing from everybody in the family what's going on, what they are doing. When I was meeting my grandmother and my grandfather before he died in 2005, my relatives, my uncles, my everybody, everybody from the smallest child to the oldest man in the family. So yeah, hearing from the generations of the family about what's going on, and by the end of the day, you feel that you have a back. Really, like if you have any challenge, any problem, there are really people that you will meet, and by the end of the week or at the dinner, and they will protect you, they will help you, they will support everything you are facing. So yeah, that's just kind of the Syrian society, and living in Damascus is really the second tremendous thing that have ever happened to us. I mean, I'm really lucky. I mean, nobody choose where to get born, but I was really we were really honored to be just born on this greatest land. While it's very old land, it's like the cradle of civilizations. Everywhere you walk in the ancient city in Damascus, while now there is like two parts of Damascus, the ancient and the modern city, but everywhere you walk in the ancient city, you will really feel what do I mean. And everything I remember from the ancient city is the smell of jasmine, in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
While I was walking alone, like between 12 a.m. till 3 a.m. alone, you find nobody there, but the rain and the smell of jasmine after the rain.
Can you think of those memories fondly now, or is it painful?
Actually, I don't feel any memory is painful. It's like healing for me, when I remember any of these memories. And any memory can be taken in two directions, even to get it and maybe complain of your current situation and say what happened to me right now, and my memory was better than my present, or my past was better than what I'm living now, or to say that because of that memory I'm living now my present to be a brighter future. So that's just like part of my thinking. All the memories, but the main thing about the memories that we have is that my family worked really hard before the war in Syria to get everybody a brighter future living in Syria. And the Syrians usually, they don't think about traveling. Like, it's just like zero thinking. I haven't even thought to leave Syria in my entire life, even visiting other countries. Like, we don't have that really mentality to visit the other places because there is really everything. I mean, Syria is very various, has very various places that you can get anything you want. You can go to mountains or to the beach, or you can visit the ancient city or the modern places. So we were not really thinking about traveling anywhere. And when I was hearing about any of my friends, they were thinking about like traveling, but they were thinking of traveling for a few days of their lives, and they come back for sure. Like, I haven't heard about some people who immigrated from Syria for any reason before, even though like we were living in Syria was maybe the safest country in the Middle East, but we were really feeling that there has been so many things that has to be changed. So that was just like the second part of my life. I mean, I consider everything before 2011 is completely different after 2011. Like, living before 2011 means that we are planning for our day-to-day life, and because everything was like secured for our future. As you know, I told you, like, the family, they were working to get everyone of my siblings really living a brighter future. So really, everything before 2011 was just a different life. Yeah.
Happy. You had a happy childhood,
exactly, yeah.
Safe. You felt safe always growing up?
Yeah, that's correct.
And then the change came. And tell me about how that affected your family.
Well, everything I remember about living from 2011 till we left Syria is um, like there are a couple of stories. I mean, the first thing I always remember is when we were at the university in 2011, and we have heard about like some of our friends who got arrested, um, and then we asked, you know, for them to be released, and we wore lab coats and we carried flowers. And we were asking, is there any more peaceful way to just like ask for your friends to be released? I don't think so. So we did that, but we had so much violence against, you know, all my friends, against me, and that was on campus at the university. So really for me, remembering the stories after 2011, how many people were really um, killed or injured, how people were arrested, how many Syrians really lost their houses, how many Syrians had to move from one place to another, how many Syrians left the country, how many Syrians are crossing the border every day. So
Was it the kind of situation where you kept thinking, okay, it can't get any worse than this?
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, like if you are in any war situation, you will always think that that will end, you know. Like the weapons will end. Like nobody has nobody has weapons to fight forever. So we were thinking it will end very, very soon. And that's why we left Syria without anything. I mean, when we left our home in Damascus, I told the family that I cannot afford to lose anybody of you, but we will come back to Syria after a month or two. So I said to them, okay, we can go to Lebanon, just, you know, visit anyone, and then we can come back to Syria again. That was really every Syrian was thinking in that idea. Like nobody left Syria to just like to travel abroad from Turkey or Lebanon or Jordan or Iraq. All of them, they were thinking to stay just in these temporary refuge countries, to go back to Syria after the war stops.
To go to their home.
Exactly, to come back to their homes, even if it was destroyed as our house. But you know, there's at least there is a land that we own. There is our entire like memories, our neighbors that we grew up with, our you know, suburb in Damascus. So everybody was thinking about coming back to Syria once they leave for a few months, but none of that happened. So things has really, you know, the violence has been increasing, and you are hearing in the news every day. Unfortunately, like it's not getting any better anymore. And as I always mention, that what started to be really peaceful demonstrations, really now in Syria, it's like a third world war in one country, because none of the victims know why they are killed, and who is fighting against who, and who is with whom, and you know, so who are the sides in that war. But really the victims are the civilians who couldn't leave, who stayed there, who believe that the solution will be, and the conflict resolution will be very soon. The Syrians who even they faced the borders blockage in their faces when they tried to leave Syria. I really believe that so many Syrians are trying to leave. That like they are not happy to live such a violent life, you know, for their children and for themselves. It's not a life.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And I know how I feel as someone very removed from it when I see images of people stopped at borders and turned away from countries.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel watching those images?
Well, actually, that's really heartbreaking. Like every time I see any of the refugees are turned away on the borders, none of the countries are accepting them. And unfortunately, that's the mentality now. I mean, you are hearing now of so much negativity across the world about refugees, even though they are victims. Like nobody chose to be a refugee. I mean, it's not the goal in life to become refugee. Nobody was born to become refugee. Even none of the Syrians were born to become refugees. And that's not a dream. That's not their dream. Even when they left Syria, I was really, interested to know what they are thinking when they go to the United Nations. So I was with a couple of Syrian families when they were going to the United Nations. They usually don't accept to be called refugees or to have that status as refugee, because Syria has welcomed millions of people from Iraq, from Palestine, from the Second World War, from Europe, all over the world, from Armenia. All of them, they came to Syria, and because of the wars, in the last century and before.
It's a history of hospitality.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
A way.
So Syria welcomed so many people across the world, but the Syrians, really, they have never thought that things like this will happen in their country. And they were really, they didn't think that they will become refugees, because none of the people who came to Syria were called refugees. Mm-hmm. None of them. Like all the Iraqis, all the Lebanese during the civil war, all the Palestinians, all even the Europeans, the Armenians, they were not, called refugees.
They were immigrants.
Exactly. So when they arrived in Syria, even they are now, a piece part of the Syrian community. Mm-hmm. Everyone that came to Syria became Syrian. There were none of the discrimination against anybody in Syria, because it was the greatest, really welcoming nation in the Middle East. And after that, thinking how things changed, and the Syrians became refugees in the neighborhood countries. So that's really heartbreaking.
So I'm jumping around a little bit, but the beautiful thing about what you are able to do now with your profile and your gift for speaking is that you've become an ambassador for refugees around the world.
Yeah.
And just even saying this in this interview, people will hear it and it will make them think differently. And that's a profound responsibility and power. Do you feel that as a sense of passion and purpose?
Absolutely. I feel a huge responsibility now towards speaking out. I mean, if we sit down and if we have the greatest power on earth, and we sit down and close the doors on us, and we don't speak out, nobody will come and knock on the door and ask us, what we are thinking. Leaving our homeland to Lebanon and being called refugees and have that number. And
tell them about the number. I heard you say this in a speech.
Yeah, so when we went first to the United Nations with my family, and they were calling me with the number, and my number was 0124885, and they repeated it a couple of times, and they were calling me, and I didn't know that they are calling me. So when I went to them, I said to them that I have my name, so why you are calling me a number? They said there is like this number of refugees before you, so now you are that number. So I said to them that I have an identity. That's really the horrible thing about the refugee status. I mean, losing everything, your home, in addition to losing everything in your homeland, but the hardest thing is losing your sense of belonging. So when we were there, they were calling me by that number that I don't like. Everything has changed in my mind. I said that even though I can say accept everything they are doing, I mean, they were helping refugees. They were just like the major part of helping and supporting refugees, and without them it will be a horrible situation, even worse. But the idea itself, I mean, isn't there anybody on earth that is thinking about how are refugees feeling, or the Syrians feeling, or anybody who loses his home feeling when they are called by numbers, and they feel themselves really isolated, they feel themselves really lost, and nobody is caring about them anymore, and it's even harder to give them that status. I mean, there is something should be done.
So they should be treated with compassion and respect, rather than maybe the treatment is born of the people who are helping them thinking, oh, they should be thankful to be helped.
Yeah, and even the name refugee really gives that negative aspect.
Yeah.
Really, it when you call anybody refugee, you are remembering him by all the worst thing that has happened to in his entire life, which is losing his home, which is losing everything he has been building in his entire life. So really there is something should be done in that direction. Whenever you are calling them refugees every time, and you are giving them that it's turning from temporary status to a permanent thing that they
full-time
will,
stigma.
Exactly, they will always thinking about what happened to them before, and it's now part of their personality. If you still keep calling them refugees, that's why the Canadians now are calling them new Canadians, and that's why the Canadians, since the first time we were on the airplanes, they were calling me the new Canadian. So, and the moment that you stop calling them refugees, and the moment that you offer them these communities, and the moment that you offer them these opportunities to succeed and open businesses, start their passion, their children are going to the schools, their life came back to the normal track again. At that moment, they will stop being refugees by themselves. Yeah.
So the way I see it is, it's there's an old book called The Course on Miracles, and it boils everything in life down to love or fear. And so any interaction you have with someone, any reaction you see from someone, you can boil it down and say, at its root, is it love or fear? And I love what you're saying, because really what you're saying is we should be in our treatment of these fellow human beings. Right now, too much of the world is reacting from a place of fear to refugees rather than love to these human beings who are displaced and having gone through a lot of trauma.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's correct.
But you were able to change your name from Hudhud to Hadhad, so I know that you have the power to change that. You can, you're on a path, and you can change that use of the word refugee. I think that's a beautiful part of your mission.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there is now really real thinking about that at the United Nations. When I joined them as a volunteer, not a refugee,
in Beirut,
in Lebanon, and when I was also attending a couple of meetings with the World Health Organization, working with the Syrians in Lebanon, so I was really always pushing that, in the discussion about why you are calling them, maybe call them like any name, calling them that the Syrians who lost their houses, and give them some hope in the future. Call them the residents, maybe in Lebanon. Call them residents in anywhere. But really, something should have been changed.
You were voicing that, and how old were you then?
Maybe 23.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So Tareq is just 26 now.
Yeah.
And a force of nature. So you are obviously an old soul for a 26-year-old. You're taking on the world. Let's talk about you coming to Canada, and then we'll get into sweet chocolate.
Yeah. So, the way it all happened, it was really by sudden. When I remember that day when I was driving back to my residence in Saida, South Lebanon, and actually the people who were with me, they were talking about the scholarship from the Canadian Embassy that they are offering to the Syrian youth in Lebanon to continue their studies in Canada. And I didn't talk actually so much about it, but when I went back home, I was thinking by myself that it's really great opportunity. I mean, I was really helpful to the refugees in Lebanon, to the Syrians in Lebanon who were really stuck, who couldn't even go to the hospitals to get their operations done, who were really unable to go to the primary healthcare centers to get, the pill or medication, their medications.
Because you had enough medical training
Yeah, exactly.
to be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we were really very helpful. The whole organization that I was working with, which is local organization in Lebanon. So, but when I had that opportunity to apply to travel to Canada, I thought that I would be really more helpful for everybody, even, because I really believe if you don't go to the next step, you are not at the same step. You are, going down. So you are not like constant, you are moving down.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe in that in everything I'm doing. So in everything I'm doing, it's a mentality to think about developing yourself all the time.
And you can only help someone else up if
Exactly.
you're up there.
Yeah. So when I applied to the Canadian Embassy through that scholarship, they said to me that you have an interview very soon. And I was really excited. I received that email because it's like a dream. Thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who apply to the Canadian Embassy every year to travel.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got that email, it was like dream comes true. And I went to the embassy. I did the interview with them, and they said to me everything was fine. But they called me after I left them, and they said, "Sorry, how old are you?" I said, "I'm now 23." They said, "We are really sorry because the age limit is 22, and we cannot accept like older people."
And by then, did you really have your hopes up?
Actually, I was really frustrated after that call.
Yeah.
I mean, after all the dream and all the hope that I got, that I will get accepted, and I have very high marks. I was doing medicine in Syria, so I thought that it would be easier for me to get accepted. But when the age limit was really not good news. So
You should have done what I do and just lie about your age.
yeah.
No. Just kidding. So, but then they called back.
They called back after maybe a month, and they said that they reviewed my application again, and they really think that myself and my family and everybody I applied for or mentioned their names in my application, they are going to do huge things if they travel to this country, and they're going to contribute and build themselves, and their life will be such a new life, such a new thing if they traveled or they had the opportunity to come to this country. So when I received that call, it's even sweeter when you have that your hope very down than the normal, and then you have that hope again, which is such a great. If I am maybe going to talk in medical way, it's the dopamine. When you have that dopamine again.
Dopamine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again to the highest level in your life. That was really the moment of my life when I received that call again. And I told the family that it's time to travel, and they said, "Where?" When I came back home, and I told them that we are accepted to travel to Canada. I was really afraid to tell them because
And they didn't know that you had
they didn't
applied
know
or
that
anything.
I have applied, or they didn't know that we are accepted. Or before that night, I messaged them. I came back from my office. It was around like 1 a.m. I messaged them. I said, "I have to see you all to talk to you." So they said there is really something serious. And when I came back home, I arrived. My father behind the door. He opened the door for me. He said, "What happened?" I said, "We are traveling." He said, "Where? Turkey?" I said, "No." He said, "Maybe Germany?" I said, "No." He said, "Like somewhere in maybe Egypt, Tunisia." Like I
Keep
said,
going.
"No." I said, "Canada." He said, like everybody was there, they say, "Canada is too cold."
Yes. I love that reaction.
That was really very innocent reaction. I mean, the reputation about this country it's really great in the Middle East about embracing newcomers and helping and supporting. Even the Canadians, they were helping the Syrians in the refugee camps by supplying them with food sometimes, by helping them building temporary houses sometimes. So there were really huge steps in Lebanon that made the Syrians thinking that Canada is really their perfect second home. So everybody was really dreaming of that opportunity to travel to this country. Even till now, I'm receiving hundreds of messages every day from people that they were asking if I can help them get here.
Wow.
So
And your sister is still in Damascus.
Yes, exactly. So my sister, she's still in Damascus, and she couldn't leave with her husband, and that's just that situation. I mean, not everybody could leave.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that decision, like
thing.
the Syrians are two birds. The first bird who really thought that they were all thinking about Syria all the time by every decision they have taken. But the first bird who thought that if they left,
mm-hmm.
they will not become victims or numbers in this crazy war. So that's, the first bird who left. The second bird were fighting and fighting, just to stay in the country, to keep their homeland, to not leave there. So we were in the first bird, and when we decided that we would be way more helpful to the country if we left, if we died
mm-hmm.
in this war, even people, they will not know our names.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unfortunately, now we came to that time that really having this massive killing every day, that people, they are not paying attention to who is killed, but just to the numbers, like the total number by the end of the day. That's what you see in the news
mm-hmm.
every day.
No names.
Just
numbers.
They don't even mention the names because they feel that, it's repetitive thing every day,
mm-hmm.
every day.
So it must be a constant source of concern for your whole family that your sister is there. And
exactly, she couldn't leave.
Yeah.
So we are really thinking about her every day. My family, they try to call her every day, a couple of times, to make sure that she is still safe. She moved to so many places, to stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like Damascus is safer than other cities, but the general situation in Syria is really horrible. Nobody can imagine what's going on there.
No. And it's not getting better anytime soon by the looks of things.
Unfortunately.
Okay, so let's jump to the positive spin of what your family is doing now in Canada. And your story is out there. A lot of people will have already heard it. So we won't go through how you set up your business and so on, but just talk a little bit, if you will, about how chocolate runs in your blood.
Yeah. So like the first time my father was thinking about chocolate, which is the product of happiness, and we inherited that.
Yes, I love that. I have to stop you. It's the product of happiness. What do you mean by that? I love that. It is for me.
Yeah, so when everybody eats chocolate, he will be happy. I mean, you will not see anybody eats chocolate and will be sad. That's really the fact that my father opened our eyes on. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's very unique perspective when he was making something, not because he's making business, no, but because he really loves to see people happy. And when he really noticed in the first day he started his business in Damascus, that really it's very sweet business. It's not because he's making profit or something, no, but because he's really getting very, very much smiles by the end of the day while everybody is eating the chocolate and sharing it at the weddings or these special occasions in life.
Giving it as gifts and making people happy.
Which is really, really unique. Yeah, which is really. I mean, there in other types of food there is some controversy. Like people they can some people like it, some people don't like it. But when it comes to chocolate, I mean, it's really there is really something special about that product that even if you unite people.
So he started in your grandmother's kitchen?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's right, as a young man.
Yeah.
And you had a very well-established business in Syria where you were exporting to all sorts of countries,
that's
right?
Correct, yeah.
So when you came to Canada, it was natural, I guess, for you to try to build that again? What was your thinking as a family?
So, as I told you, the idea of coming here since the beginning So the family, before we left Lebanon altogether, we had, like, we sat down and we were talking why we are traveling, really why we are traveling. Like, we can live in Lebanon for the rest of our life, or to come back to Syria if things has changed. But when we felt that coming to Syria is not an option anymore, everything was destroyed, like the house and the factory. So when we said that we are traveling now 6,000 or 7,000 kilometers to the west, so why we are taking that step? And the answer was really straightforward. And when they said that Canada is a great nation, it's very multicultural country, and everybody is welcome. So what we need from the Canadians is just to give us that opportunity to land in one of their airports. That's it. And we will take our next step by ourselves. But hearing about the Canadians who were really doing beyond that, really more than that, while receiving the Syrians in the airports, calling them new Canadians, getting them warm houses in the freezing winter. The children are back in schools. So we really believed since the beginning that every school, every child that came back to school is a success. Every family that they found warm house again is success. Every single father that he's happy to see his children growing up in a safe place is a huge success. So we really felt that it doesn't have to be a prominent thing to call it a success. We were working on that, but also because we have that mentality that we are not here to take, we are here to contribute, we are here to give back, really to the nation that welcomed and received us even before they knew our names, or before they knew what we are going to do in this country. Like, nobody asked us what we are going to do and asked us to build a chocolate factory or to come back to our business. Nobody asked us to give back anything. Nobody asked us to pay back anything. So
when you came, you just experienced a giving, right?
That's correct,
You just experienced. Yeah. So what was that embrace like when you arrived in Antigonish?
The most interesting thing was, and the most heartwarming thing was, when we thought about Antigonishers, the people who prepared the house for my family and who were with us all the time, and who were at the airports in the middle of the night to welcome us at the airport, to make us feel home since the first moment we are on the Canadian soil. To all of those people, really, like, they are doing these things regardless of our background, of our religion, of our ethnicity, of our goals, of our plans in this country, regardless of all of these things. But everything they cared about is that we are human beings, that we were seeking safety and peace. And after that, we said that it can be a win-win deal, for the community who welcomed us, and also for ourselves, like, to take advantage of that great opportunity in this country to rebuild the life again for everybody in the family and really have the bright future. Also win deal to the Antigonishers, while we are now, for example, offering jobs in that small community. A win deal for us, because we are really surrounded by the most warm-hearted people on earth, in our new community. So the family were really thinking, as the first week in Antigonish, it erased the years of suffering in the Middle East. So they were thinking of living in Antigonish, in Nova Scotia, and in general in this country, in this greatest nation. They felt that their life can be changed forever if they start sharing their message with others. And that's why we started making chocolate in the second month when my family arrived here, and that message of happiness. And then we thought that we should add something to that happiness, which is reflecting the importance of peace in our lives. So when we were on the table discussing what to call the business, it was really straightforward when I mentioned that We are here for because we know how to make chocolate. We started the business because we know how to make chocolate, and my father knows.
Really good chocolate.
Yeah. So, and we are here because we really suffered from the violence in the Middle East. We really know what does it feel to flee the country and flee our homes, and so we thought that peace is really also the most noble value on earth. So we call it Peace by Chocolate, to be even the name of our company, to be the message for the family, for the Hadhads, for generations to come. And really the sweet thing about our story is we were really lucky to get that attention since we came at the airports. Like, we have done so many interviews with the media, and I really feel that for any immigrant or any newcomer, their first year in this country is the most memorable moments they will remember. Every one from their generations, from their grandsons and the granddaughters, when they are born here in this country, when they ask about their grandfathers,
Yes.
for me and for my siblings and for my father, now it's all documented. I mean, we have done so much media interviews. Now everybody knows about every single day we lived in this country, what we did, who we met, what we achieved, how we created the name, how we shared our thoughts, how we supported even that great initiative. That why we called it Peace by Chocolate was also supported by our initiative for helping the people from Fort McMurray that
Yes.
they fled their homes.
That was beautiful.
So we launched that initiative, and thousands of immigrants and Syrians across the country, they joined us, and they were part of it. So that's all documented now. If you want to check for that, you can easily get that information, and it's all accessible. So really, it's very sweet to have that. I mean, I have met so many Syrians who came last century to this country. So since I met them the first or the second day I came to this province, and the first thing they mentioned that they're really sad that they don't have anything documented about how they came here, about their first year. But
And you, on the other hand,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so in our case, we were really lucky to have that absolutely beautiful attention.
Well, I feel like there are a lot of Canadians who feel very lucky to have the Hadhad family
Thank you.
here. And I know that there are many people in the world who should feel lucky to have you as a spokesperson, because I think you're making an enormous difference. And that's why when I heard you were going to be in Halifax, I said, I've got to have him in the Soul Booth. You are bringing light. Anyway, please say hello to your whole family. I would like to come and
Absolutely.
meet them someday.
Sure, yeah, more than welcome. Please drop by. They would really love to see you, for sure. Yeah, just drop by.
And I'll put a couple of links in the write-up with, for instance, the documentary, and so they can hear more
Sure,
of your
yeah.
story and how your company came to be here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good luck with the new factory.
Thank you, yeah. It's
And-
going to be very soon. So really big plans are really coming very, very soon. And I'm really happy to have that opportunity, like not only in this province, but across the country. Canada is the second largest country in the world. And there is absolutely a place for everybody. I always say that there is really a place for everybody, and it's really the land of opportunities. And the Canadians, what they are doing now, they are leading, the other nations across the world by the positivity they are dealing with and keeping their doors open. It's really important, when you think about it, when you are a unique country while the others are going in the wrong direction. So you are just asking them to look at you and say why that happened and how that happened. Is that because Canada closed their doors, or because it opened its doors? Is that because Canada is bringing the new skills and new immigrants, or because Canada is turning them away on its borders? So it's very, very straightforward when you see these the Canadian positive examples. I mean, one single positive story has such more power than thousands of words and speeches. If you just give one positive example, you will have tons of followers that they will come and ask you how that happened. So we are really just like honored and proud to be such like one of these positive examples.
That's beautifully said. Thank you very much,
Oh, my
Tareq.
pleasure, yeah.
Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you for watching and for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Soul Booth. Stay tuned.